So I am discussing about the neural aspect of visual information processing. So first, what I will talk about is the visual skill. So in visual skill, there is the three main skills: spatial skill, analysis skill, and motor skill. What is the spatial skill? It is the judgment about the world in relation to me. Analysis skill means the group of abilities used to recognize, recall, and manipulate visual information. And visual motor skill is eye hand coordination. It is the general ability to coordinate visual information processing skill with the motor skills. Now I am talking about structures of visual pathway. It is the eye, optic nerve, optic chiasma, optic tract, that is the before lateral geniculate body, and after it, it is optic radiation, visual cortex, visual associated cortex. After path, LGN is called posterior pathway, and before part is called anterior pathway. Now it is the structure of eye. I am not going to explain it elaborately, but the important thing is here that rod and cone cell that belongs to the retina. Now it is a visual system. Here the main important thing is optic chiasma. The axons from the nasal retina goes through this optic nerve, but these axons are crossover here at optic chiasma, but the axons from temporal retina, they don't cross over, they go their own side, and lastly they goes to the primary visual cortex via lateral geniculate body. Here is one small video from YouTube where the lens and cornea, the light through this is going to the retina. After that, the temporal retina and nasal retina, what I said, it goes to optic chiasma through the optic tract. But here it is the left visual field which goes via the right optic tract, and the right field goes to the left visual tract. The optic tract then goes to the lateral geniculate nucleus. Some goes to the superior colliculus, some axons goes to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and some to the pretectum. So the two sides of lateral geniculate body, right and left lateral geniculate body, there is the optic radiation from these two sides, which goes to the cortex, that is the visual cortex.
Now let us look at the hierarchical view of the visual information processing. So on seeing the image, the light from the image source enters into the eye. From eye, it is sent for the low level of vision processing, then to the mid level, and then to the higher level. So basically, the low level vision happens in the retina, LGN, and V1. It tries to extract the elemental features like detection of edges, contrast, and color. This processing is done by translating the light intensity at retina into oriented edge representations in the respective receptive fields. So from these, the low-level representations are sent to V2. From V2 to V4, mid-level vision happens, where they try to locally pull the low-level features so as to extract information about the shape, texture, and tries to extract information about depth and distance by using the visual cues. From here, the mid-level representation I have sent for further information extraction. So, on seeing the visual stimuli, light enters into the eye. The photoreceptors in the eye, basically the rods and cones, which are sensitive to light, uh, gets sense information about the light intensities to the LGN. From LGN, it goes to the V1. V1 is the primary visual cortex, and V1 is sensitive to the basic elementary features like edges, bars, and color changes. The simple cells in the V1 gets activated if they detect edges or bars at a specific location. Based on the responses from multiple simple cells, the complex cell gets activated. So if edges are detected at adjacent locations, then based on the activation of multiple simple cells, the complex cell gets activated and derives the information accordingly. The ventral visual pathway starts from the primary visual cortex V1 and extends along the ventral along the ventral surface of the brain, all along up to the temporal cortex. Uh, temporal cortex. So the low level vision processing happens basically in the primary visual cortex, and the mid level vision processing happens from V2 to V4. And then the semantic representations and object detection and all that obtained in the temporal cortex. So on seeing the visual input based on the activity of the neurons, a vector representation in a very high dimensional space is obtained, where each vector could be thought of as each axis could be thought of as the neuronal response of each neuron. After applying several transformations, a low-dimensional manifold of points, basically a continuous surface, is obtained. These manifolds are highly curved and tangled in lower vision areas like LGM, V1, and retina. Then these manifolds are forwarded along the ventral stream, where nonlinear transformations happens, and it finally outputs a representation in such a way that it is more discernible from other objects. Basically, the IT cortex tried to develop a mapping of visual input to a semantic representation in such a way that it allows easy discrimination between dissimilar objects. So after object detection based on the memory, based on the visual memory, it tries to recognize the object, and in this way the object recognition happens with the help of the ventral stream transform along the ventral visual pathways.
So now I am talking about one special situation that one human being started running, that after seeing these fearful things, that is the tiger. I am talking about emotional processing paths for visual inputs. This picture I have taken from these papers, and in these papers they told about two road, high road and low road. In high road, the signal goes to the amygdala from retina via superior colliculus and pulvinar, and in high road the signal goes to the amygdala via lateral geniculate body, V1, V2, V4, and temporal cortex. Here another things are important, there's dorsal hair stream and ventral hair stream, what we have already discussed. Now it is a multiple pathway hypothesis for human visual fear signaling. In this paper they have told that there may be 5 pathway that help in fear signaling. Here in first pathway, that is the P1, it is the low road, what I have discussed earlier, and the other pathway P2 is from lateral geniculate body to the amygdala via V1, V2, V4, and posterior inferior temporal cortex, and other one part is from the V4 to the anterior inferior temporal cortex, and then lateral orbital frontal cortex to the amygdala, and other two path is started from posterior inferior temporal cortex and goes via lateral intraparietal cortex, and one path from here that goes to the amygdala via ventromedial prefrontal cortex, and another path through the ventrolateral prefrontal cortex, lateral orbitofrontal cortex, and the posterior orbitofrontal cortex to the amygdala. So when one person see one fearful things, this it is the sensory input go to the first cortex, and there then there is image processing, object recognition, and after so many cortical activity, this fear pathway activates the amygdala, and the man then start run.
Hi, one and all. Today I would be speaking about visual information processing, and our basic idea is to talk about ConvNets. So here I would be talking about a brief ideology, what is the difference between how our brain sees images and ConvNet sees images. As Sri Lakshmi was talking, ConvNets and the brain have a similar way of seeing images. So through the layers of the ConvNet, which is a network, we basically extract several features, which are initially the low level features, and then the mid level features, and the high level features. The low level features being edges and something like small contours and stuff, and higher level features are something like faces, ears, noses. Now, coordinates have become popular in the past like 10 years because of the fact that the initial pre-feature extraction, which I was talking about, like taking out edges and faces and etc., are very difficult to do in the image processing setup in a machine learning process, because in terms of classical machine learning we have to provide these as features, while in deep learning and convex this is done automatically. So doing this by our own needs a lot of effort and also a lot of data, which was clearly missing in the initial era. And even if the data is possible, doing this will be a very mammoth task. The number three is we want to talk about the applications of convents. Now, convents, apart from image recognition, which is a basic uh, use of convents, we can detailedly talk about object detection and segmentation. While in object detection, we mainly talk about just providing a bounding box on one of the objects which we are talking about, let's say sheep, in where we have basically given the x and the y coordinates of the upper left corner and the lower right corner. And in object detection, we basically transform this into a multi object classification plus localization problem, where we can actually detect several objects present in the picture. We can also talk about segmentation. In segmentation, we basically do this pixel by pixel, and here we classify each pixel and understand it in a deeper way. So here we have basically changed this square box into contours, and in instance segmentation we have even further divided the classes of classes which contain the same levels into different contours. So this was a very important application of context in terms of image tagging and something like an object recognition. In the next part, which I would be talking about, is image captioning, which is basically taking out all the information out of an image and then passing it through a decoder. So the encoder part is basically a Google net of 42 layers, and the decoder is basically, while the features are extracted, the decoder mainly helps us to get the meaning of the image. Let's say a person writing, which is a very important task, and this is basically possible because of the fact that there is something known as attention. So as we know, this is our fellow mates topic, attention. We have stole a little bit of it in our model. So basically what happens is that we concentrate on some parts of the image which is basically essential to us. We as humans do not see the entire image and check each and every pixel. We concentrate on part of the image which is important to us, and these set of vectors which are important, or pixel which are important, is known as attention weights, and this is very important for our model. And this is very important since convexes now are becoming a little bit unfamiliar, and transforming to a transforming to an era of spatial transformers. So this is very important. And last but not least, I would like to talk about some of the applications of ConvNet, such as decoding facial recognition, self-driving cars, analysis of climate advertising, analysis documents, and robotics. So self-driving cars and self-driving cars has been an important application, as we all know. How object detection is very much helpful in self-driving cars, as we have talked about. It detects the objects and analyzes the distance that it is from our car, and accordingly it adjusts the angle of the steering wheel so that we do not meet an accident. So this is all from the visual processing and information group, and I hope that everything is clear from my end. Thank you so much.
Hello, I am Deepak Mewala. I will talk about computational model for visual information processing. Devajoy talked about ConvNet. I will give a computational model for visual information processing where we can use ConvNet in intermediate processes. I will start from this example. This is example where Nilanjana left. So here there is some state of world, there is some sensory input, there is some cortical activity which take place inside her brain, and there is some associated action which take place with this activity. So Nilanjana explained the internal state, internal activity which take place inside our brain during this activity. I'll model all these activity with the help of mathematical tools. So these are the mathematical tools. There are some variables and the function. So X is the internal state of the external world, and R is the neuron fired inside our brain, and A is associated action which depend upon the neurons fired. So here comes the computation part. So this is the main computational thing which happen inside our brain. One thing is that the sensory stimulation, the activity in the retina, for example, is the produced by this state of the world is very high dimensional. And one of the key aspect of computation that take place in the brain is the reduction of the dimensionality. Here dimensionality of X is very less in comparison to dimensionality of Y. So we have very high dimensional signal, and we want to extract somewhere low dimensional variable that represent what we care about, that is behaviorally important, relevant in terms of the state of the world. So after this computation part, here comes the neural computation part, in which there are two stages: encoding and decoding. And in encoding, how sensory signals are transferred in the central nervous system, and in decoding, how these neural presence of activity is decoded to give rise to percept, to estimate the world that we care about. So next comes the Bayesian approach. Next comes the Bayesian approach. So how we can use this Bayesian approach to computationally model our functions. So this is a quite successful approach because it takes into account the uncertainty that are there in our brain, and it also take into account the photo receptor noise, the sensory receptor noise, and the neural activity itself is very much variable. So why do we care about this encoding and decoding? We care about this encoding because with the help of encoding, we can predict the neural activity in response to external stimuli, and we can process this neural activity to simulate external stimuli, and which can be used to develop retinal prosthetic. And we care about decoding because it can be used to quantify accuracy of the neural code and predict intended behavior from neural activity, and it can be used to design neural prosthetic devices. And here comes the interesting mathematical part, that it is prior and it is likelihood. So we can decide or choose right prior according to our requirement. There are lots of research associated with this particular concept, and this laboratory is working on probabilistic model of visual segmentation. And then there are lots of literature available related to perception as Bayesian inference. And now I'll talk about the research in the area of visual information processing. So there is DeCollo lab at MIT, which is working to discover the neural algorithm underlying visual object recognition. It is also working on invariance problem, like how we can decide it is a car when there are different orientation and different backgrounds. And there is another lab, computational vision laboratory, which is working on the computational model of coloring, how color are perceived inside our brain. So this is Drexel college laboratory, which have given this particular model of visual information processing. So that's all from my side. I'm Deepak from Visual Information Processing Group. Thank you.